Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first notes on the energy unit about physical and chemical change. Let's get started. SWABOT, students will be able to investigate changes of substances to see if a physical or chemical change has occurred. So before we get started with physical and chemical changes, I want to tack this in. At the beginning of the unit, we looked at this different states of matter, solids, liquids, and gases. So we did a little bit of a lab on these different states and what the atoms and molecules look like. So a couple of points. Substances can change phases or states when they are heated or cooled. So something can become a liquid if it's heated, or something that's a gas could become a liquid if it's cooled. Atoms and molecules are constantly moving or vibrating, even in a solid. We got to see that in the lab. As temperature goes up, the amount of vibration or energy in a substance increases. So as temperature goes up, we see the molecules and atoms moving more than when they were colder. Along with the states of matter, we learned about a couple of points. The melting point and the freezing point are here too. I've got a picture of ice here. They're actually the same point. Melting point is the temperature at which a solid becomes a liquid, and the freezing point is the temperature at which a liquid becomes a solid. For water, this point is 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it goes below 32, it freezes. If it goes above 32, it's a liquid. Or it melts. So we've got the different states happening at these different points. So that melting and freezing are the same, but if it's a little bit above, it's going to be one thing. If it's a little bit below, it's going to be something else. The other one is boiling and condensation. So the boiling point is the temperature at which a liquid becomes a gas, and the condensation point is the temperature at which a gas becomes a liquid. So for water, again, the boiling point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. And that's the same. So if it goes above that, then it's going to be the liquid becomes a gas. And if it goes below that, then the gas becomes a liquid. All right. Physical change. This is the first one we're going to talk about. A physical change changes the form or appearance of a substance, but it does not change it into anything new. So I've got a couple of examples down here. It can change the state of matter. So if we have ice or liquid water or water in the atmosphere, in the air, it is all still water, even though a change has occurred from one state of matter to another. Changing the color of something on purpose, changing the shape of something, changing the texture, changing the temperature. These are all called physical changes. Let me give you some real world examples of physical changes. We've got beating eggs in a bowl, boiling water, that's a state change, dissolving sugar. Dissolving sugar is a physical change because if we evaporated the water, we would get the sugar back out. Cutting up vegetables into different pieces or paper or anything like that would give us a physical change. A chemical change, on the other hand, is when two or more substances join to form new substances with different chemical properties. The bonds between atoms are broken to form new molecules. So like we've got a little example down here of like carbon dioxide, and I think this might be methane. Anyway, it can combine to make, oh, actually that's just oxygen, can make carbon dioxide and water. So chemical changes happens when something new is being created in a chemical way. So chemical meaning atoms or molecules. Here's some real world examples of chemical changes. We've got iron rusting. It changes its chemical composition. Eggs that are being cooked, not just beaten. Bread rising, we've got a chemical change happening there. And we've got anything burning, like gas, gasoline in your car, gas in your house. This gas is being burned and we've got a chemical change happening. The other thing I wanted to talk about is what is a chemical or physical property. So we have an article about this coming up where it talks about what is a physical chemical property versus a physical or chemical change. So properties. Properties are like an observable and measurable characteristic of a substance, a physical property. For example, a color, like the color of my shirt is like pinkish red. The boiling point or melting point of a substance is a physical property, how hard it is. It's like I've got this object right here. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. Those are all physical properties. Chemical properties are, on the other hand, are an observed characteristic that happens during a chemical reaction. Like we don't know if something's going to be flammable until we actually try to burn it. And some things are flammable and some things aren't, but that is a chemical property. Reactivity, like if I pour this solution into another solution, is it going to react? That is a chemical property. So we don't really focus very much on the property parts. We're really talking about change in our unit, but I wanted to bring it up that there is such a thing called the property of a substance versus evidence of a change. All right, for this next slide, you guys are going to need your note sheet, and we're going to be filling out evidence of a chemical change on the bottom in these little test tubes, okay? So there's some things to look for to see if we've had a chemical change. There are indications of a chemical change. The first one is an unexpected color change. An unexpected color change where we've poured two solutions together or something and we get a different color that was not present, like this yellow in this solution. Some real world examples are fireworks. When fireworks go up, that's a chemical reaction. The leaves changing color in the fall is also a chemical reaction. An unexpected temperature change. In this case, energy is being released or absorbed, making their surroundings hotter or colder. So if we added baking soda to vinegar, we're going to get a temperature change. If our body temperatures increase when we have an infection, we get a fever, and that is a body chemical change. I've also got like hand warmers on here, and also this picture of a cold pack. Like if you break that cold pack up, there's a chemical reaction happening which makes it cold. Same thing with like hand warmers. If you're outside when it's cold, if you open up the package, air hits it. The air is an important part of it, and a chemical reaction starts and it becomes warm in temperature. Another evidence of a chemical change is combustion or burning. So combustion is basically the same thing as burning. So a chemical reaction between substances, usually including oxygen, giving off heat and light. This is a permanent change that can't be undone. So once we burn something, we can't unburn it. So I've got a match here. Other examples would be like a wood fire or even a candle. There's a chemical change happening when that candle is burning. The next one is called precipitate. A precipitate forms. So when a solid suddenly appears in a solution, that's a participate, we've got evidence of a chemical change. So in this case, we've got like this copper wire going into the substance and a precipitate has formed on the wire. So that's an indication of a chemical change. Some other real world examples is like when milk goes bad, we get these solid particles in the milk. Which is an indication, it's like a precipitate of a chemical change that has occurred. When you get like stuff in your bathtub or your shower, that's an example of a chemical change. There's one more, and that is about bubbles or a gas is being produced as a chemical reaction. So if I put an Alka-Seltzer in a cup of water, we get bubbles, which is an indication of a chemical change. Other substances will do this. So you combine two solutions, sometimes depending on what the solutions are, you'll get air bubbles being formed, which is a chemical change. Even the bubbles in your soda is a chemical change. So hopefully those are indications that a chemical change has occurred. If you've seen one of those, then you've got a pretty good idea that a chemical change has occurred. All right, our meme for today is about a test tube overreacting, which is actually what my t-shirt says. It's about a reaction. You'll get to see that in class. And just like everything else, physical and chemical changes included, science rocks.